Hey, if you want to be more productive, good for you. It's hard though, isn't it? I have been super productive over the years. I'm known as Mr. Productivity. I use my ADHD very effectively to get a lot of stuff done. And here's what I find when it comes to YouTubers and gurus giving advice about productivity online. It's similar to people that, if they're trying to give advice to those that are trying to lose weight, they say, hey, you want to lose weight? Just eat less. And they say, hey, like business gurus will say, hey, you want to make more money? Just sell more stuff. And it would be better if they just shut their mouths, because that advice doesn't give you any direction and it actually annoys you. So now you're not productive and you're annoyed. You're actually less productive because you're busy saying, how stupid are these people that are telling me the most obvious stuff? If you want to be a millionaire, you make $1 million. If you want to be productive, be more productive. Very circular. So anyway, if you want to get things done, what you typically are told is do more of the things that you know you should be doing but aren't. It's like, of course, Einstein, I know that. How do I then turn that into something useful? Here's the challenge. And this is the challenge with most areas where you have issues, is it's not the insight that is going to help you overcome it. Very rarely is it, oh, now I know how I'm screwed up. Oh, light opens up and now I know the answer. That doesn't really work that way. It's not the insight, it's the emotion that surrounds it. That's the problem. The problem is whatever emotion that you're feeling prior to thinking, I'm going to go and take action on this thing, and then you don't. The emotion is the issue. And if we can change how you feel about the emotion or change the emotion, then we automatically change the behavior. And what are the common emotions then that you deal with when you're trying to do stuff and you're running into brick walls? When you're like, I know I need to do this, but I can't for this reason. Here are the 4 common emotions, and I'm going to give you strategies on how to deal with all 4. They're overwhelm, the fear of the unknown, self-doubt, and your past experiences. So let's dive into each of these ones. The first one is overwhelm. Typically, what stops people from starting is they make a giant picture in their mind of the task at hand. And they say, oh my God, this is going to be insanely hard. Look at everything that there is to do. And then they do nothing, which totally makes sense. If I process the task like you process the task, I would do the same thing that you would do. So there's nothing wrong with you. It's not weird that you do this. You just create some sort of picture or movie or experience inside you that says this is going to be too hard, so therefore I won't do it even though I know I should do it. So there's a lot of ways to deal with overwhelm. I'll give you one of the easiest ones. It's called reduce to the ridiculous. So if you said, I got to write a book, because I heard a book is really good, because Jason Fladland wrote this book called One to Many, and it's amazing, and I want to write a book like he does. And then you're like, oh my God, writing a book is very hard. Spoiler alert, it's insanely hard. There is no doubt that writing a book is incredibly hard. And by the way, if you think writing a book is hard, marketing a book is even harder than it. So when you're sitting down to write the book, you're like, oh my God, and then even if I write the book and it's done, then what do I do next? And then you don't do anything. But if you can look at it differently, don't write a book. Write 109 words a day. And you're like, what is 109 words, Jason? If you did that every day for 365 days, that's a business book. A business book is typically 40,000 words. That's what a business book looks like. If you can reduce it down to the ridiculous, then what becomes unmanageable becomes more manageable. You don't have to write a book, you can write a chapter. You don't have to write a chapter, you can write a page. You don't have to write a page, you can write a paragraph. But if you play with the inputs enough, you can find a certain amount of work that you can perform that is so easy that there's no longer a feeling of overwhelm. So I want you to think, is it overwhelm that stops me from doing what I should do? And if it is, how big am I looking at it? And can I reduce it down to something small? And then what you do, you can do that first step, then do that next step. So find the thing that you can do without being overwhelmed, and you will do more of what you should. That's the first emotion. Maybe that's not your emotion though. Maybe your emotion is the second one, the fear of the unknown. What happens if you try this thing out and it doesn't work? What happens if you try to create a new funnel in your marketing and the funnel sucks? What if you are trying to do webinars like I do it, and when your webinar's done, it's terrible? First of all, it probably will be. Until you're really good at something, it's probably not going to come out that well. The known is you're probably going to suck at it. This is an interesting strategy that I can teach you on how to deal with the fear of the unknown, and it's this: exaggerate it. make it even worse. So with clients, I do this all the time. They're like, Jason, what if I try a webinar and it fails? I'm like, yeah, oh my God, if it fails, then somebody on that webinar is going to find you online. They're going to get your address. They're going to show up at your door. They're going to kick the front door and they're going to drag you out in front of the public. They're going to put a sign around you, say, world's biggest loser, and they're going to parade you around town. And then the client's like, okay, they won't do that. And so you actually, by stretching the fear, when it comes back, it deflates its power. So you can take a lot of intensity of power around the fear of the unknown by taking it to its extreme worst case scenario and then putting it out there, giving a voice to it, and then say, okay, it's not that bad. The reality is the first time you try to really do anything, nobody notices. It's a tree falling in the woods. I don't know if it makes a noise or not, but nobody cares. It's a tree. So the first time you try a webinar, nobody will probably show up anyway. It's not people showing up that matters. It's the fact that you're doing it and getting your reps in that matter. Now, here's the other part of the unknown, and people aren't aware of this consciously, but unconsciously it gets them. What if it works? That's actually one that's more scary that people don't even consider consciously. It's like, okay, what if I actually go out and build a business and I'm successful? Now I have responsibilities. Now I have customers that depend on me. Now I have a reputation to manage. Now I have new sets of standards because what I accomplished before, I climbed that mountain. It's like, what's the next mountain I got to climb? It's got to be bigger than the previous one. And so people often have more fear of success than failure. So what I would do is say, if I were to succeed at this, here are the negative consequences that will come with my success. Because every gain within it has a loss. So when you gain success over here, you also gain responsibility. So you have a loss of freedom, if you will, with your success. It's true when you fail. Every failure has a gain in it. So each time you lose at something, you learn a way not to do it. That's a gain. So what I like to do is when I work with clients is, okay, when you succeed at this, so let's frame it positively, here are the negative consequences that are likely to occur. Your friends will think differently of you. Your family will ask you for money. Charities will ask you for money once you become rich. And these are good to lay out, and if we can write them out and we can acknowledge them, then it takes the sting out of it. So both the failure and the success on the extremes, let's put a voice to it, deflate it, and then we can just get on with it. Number 3, self-doubt. This is a tough one. Some people call this imposter syndrome because even when you're successful, you still have self-doubt. I have self-doubt every single day. Success didn't get rid of my self-doubt. I just learned to let my self-doubt sit in the passenger seat on the ride to success and not drive the automobile. The thing that helped me most with dealing with self-doubt is focusing more on process, less on outcome. The problem with outcome is a lot of it is out of your control. Like if you want to get married in Florence and you want it to be sunny, hopefully that happens, but it could rain. And what are you going to do about that? That's the outcome. You have very little control over that, but you can control the process. And the process is how can we make this magical no matter what happens in that particular instance? If you can get curiosity, focus more curiosity, and how can I create an awesome process that I can build and refine over time? Then you don't even have to worry about the fear of self-doubt and unknown and some of these other negative emotions. And the process, you have more control over that. You have less control of the outcome. So when you have control, you feel more comfortable. And when you feel more comfortable, you take more action. Number 4, past results. It is unfortunate, but due to our programming, we typically look at the current task at hand through the lens of our past self. So we said, when I did this in the past, here's how it didn't go well. And now I'm scared to do it again because it might experience similar pains. Or we say, I did something like this in the past and it didn't go well. And because this is kind of like that, I'm scared this won't go well also. And this is what is really interesting is we don't recognize this. We literally degress into our past selves when faced with the current challenge, which will not help you. If you're not present, you have less power with your process. But here's a good reflective questioning to ask yourself. In what ways is current you different than past you? Because here's what your brain doesn't do, unfortunately. It doesn't say, okay, well, in the past when I failed, it was because I didn't do this, this, and this, and it wasn't because I didn't know what I now know. It was because I didn't have these experiences I have now. Your brain doesn't work that way. It just says, okay, just like past self, I guess I'm past self again, and I default back into that mode. You are different now. You're never the same person that you were before. There's a saying that you and the river both change. You never step into the same river twice because the river has changed and so have you. So this circumstance is different than any circumstance you've ever faced before, and you are a different person than you've ever been before. So this current you is different than the past you. In what ways is the current you different than the past you? It's good to tap into that because then you will come from an empowered state of mind and say, well, I know this now that I didn't know before. Good, let's invest that into the task at hand and see what happens. And here's another very useful exercise I take my clients through, and it's this. When have you done something in the past that was much harder than the thing that you're doing now? If you sit down and really take stock in it, you have done some incredible, amazing, fantastic things in your life that you just don't think about anymore, or you don't easily recall. So if before we do a hard task, if we can find an even harder task that was way tougher than this, then it's amazing how by comparison the task at hand becomes easier. You have learned such difficult things in the past that are way more difficult than whatever the task is at hand now. So if you can draw into that resourcefulness that you once had, it empowers you currently in the state you're in, you invest it in the current activity, and then you crush it. So yes, you should be doing more of the things you aren't. You already know what those are. I don't have to tell you that. What you need is strategies to get you to feel more comfortable doing what you know you should do. These are the strategies that I have used with clients and have helped them make millions of dollars as a result. Hopefully that'll work for you as well. Tell me which strategy is your favorite. I'll see you in the next video.